This is a Raspberry Pi. And this is a Raspberry Pi. One of these makes jolly good eating. The other one, well, it controls your Victron equipment. Guess which one we're going to show you how to make today. To follow this week's video, you're going to need a dozen fresh eggs, some plain flour and 6 ounces of fresh raspberries. Got ya. What you really need is one of these. This is a Raspberry Pi 3B+. So a Raspberry Pi is a mini self-contained computer with USB ports and audio ports and all the other stuff that big computers have, but just smaller. If you go online, you'll see that there are thousands of projects that you can build with a Raspberry Pi, from the simple to the very complex. So we can see what we're doing. We're going to use a 7-inch touchscreen, and this plugs straight into the Raspberry Pi. The whole lot goes together in this natty little case, so that you can, well, put it where you want it. Now, to power the computer and screen, you're going to need a USB power supply like this one, and again we bought that off the internet, cheap as chips as it were, no pun intended. To connect your Victron equipment to the Raspberry Pi, you're going to need some USB cables like this, and you're also going to need some connectors of this type. Now don't worry, I'll list all of these things out for you, and I'll give you links to websites where you can buy these things, but they're all readily available on the internet. You're also going to need a couple of these, and yes, you know what these are. They're Cat5 cables. So here's my disclaimer. I am not a computer whiz kid. I am neither a geek nor nerd when it comes to computing. The last time I did any computer programming was back in the 80s. When I had a ZX81 and spent 3 days trying to program in a clock face. I failed. Our friends on Sailing Cadoha made a fantastic video about changing to lithium and also fitting a Victron Multiplus. They used the same Raspberry Pi idea, and it's that inspired us to go another step further. I'll leave a link below to both the video and their channel. Take a look, there's some good stuff on there. This is the last piece from Tandiol. It's an invoice. Hey. Hope that's not damaged. So this is a Raspberry Pi screen. This is a Raspberry Pi. That's a ribbon cable, power cables. That's the screen. That is a Raspberry Pi screen case. So that will go in there with the computer on the back. Da-di-da-di-da. And that is, well, that is a memory card with the software on. So I'm going to put these together. I'll show you how that's done in a second. So the first thing that you do is you want to undo these little screws on the back of this board. What you have here is there's a ribbon cable that goes in there and goes in there. First you just want to screw this up, and this is basically just a little computer. Quite literally, doesn't have an operating system on it, doesn't work by Windows or Mac software. It's just a basic computer, and you write your own software, etc., to go on there. or other people write it and you plagiarise it. So 4 screws to go in there. It's got an HDMI cable there that you can plug in. It's got a little sound card on it. It works by USB, which is 5 volts, so you just put a USB cable on it. Now we've got USB chargers here, but they're all kind of spoken for. So what I've also ordered, I'll show you in a second. I'll just pinch those up. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I've also got is this. Got this off the Tinternet. I'll put links to the stuff that I've bought, probably an Amazon link or something. But we bought these from a company called Trendyol, which is like
Turkish Amazon.
Yeah, Turkish Amazon, Turkish eBay. So anyway, getting back to this. This is, you solder 2 wires on there, one positive, one negative. They're marked on the back which one's positive and which one's negative, and put 12 volts in, and it converts it down to 5 volts at 3 amps, I believe it is, to power a USB. And then of course your USB plug wire, like that, just plugs in there, like so, if I put it up the right way. And now you've then converted 12 volts into USB power. So I'm going to get a little plastic box to put that in, solder it all up. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Right, now I need to concentrate on putting this ribbon cable in. Probably do with my reading glasses. Fixing the Raspberry Pi to the 7-inch screen is really self-explanatory. There's 4 little screws that you just put through the board and it fixes on to the screen. There's then a ribbon cable that connects. Now you can put this in the wrong way round, but if you look you will see the little copper contacts face one way on one side and the other way on the other, and you simply push them in, push the little tabs up that hold the ribbon cable in place, and then put it in the other side and push the little tabs in again on that one. You can't really get it wrong. Well, you can, but it won't work. You can see that is how that goes. So the metal strips are showing on that side, on that one, and on the top there. And then we've got these power cables to put on. Once the ribbon cable is connected, you then need to connect a positive and negative feed from the board to the screen. Onto that one there. So let's show you guys. First, the black one, negative, goes on there, which is the far left. The positive red one goes on there, the far right of the bottom board. And then on the main Raspberry Pi, it goes positive, second terminal in, and negative, third terminal in. And then we just want to push these gently out of the way so that we don't catch them on anything. Assembling. Now, here's our Raspberry Pi, and it's connected to its 7-inch touchscreen. I've actually had this one running. I've taken it out in order to film this and show you what it was we had to do. So I have already put the Raspberry Pi operating system on this Raspberry Pi, and that's really easy to do. I took a memory stick. As I said, I used the Raspberry Pi program on my Mac, which is this one here, the Imager. Downloaded the software, the operating system, put it on the Raspberry Pi, booted it all up, turned the Bluetooth on, turned the Wi-Fi on, connected it all up, yada yada yada, and then when that was done, shut it all down, so that the actual computer here has the most up-to-date, I guess it's firmware operating system on it, before I then alter it. Sounds strange? Well, yeah, it is a bit, but as I say, it's not strictly necessary, but I wanted to do it that way. Now, the Raspberry Pi has a number of connections, so it has 4 of these USB connections, and then it has a LAN connection, local area network, I believe that stands for. There's our little ribbon cable, and that ribbon cable allows the computer to drive the touch screen. Just below that ribbon cable, don't know if you can see it in there, hardly, there is an SD slot for a micro SD, and a micro SD card is one of these type of things. There's one I prepared earlier, and what we're going to do is we're going to put that into a normal SD card like that, put it on the Mac, which will make it appear on my screen, hopefully. Then I'm going to go into my utilities, and I'm going to format using disk utility. I'm going to erase that, which is format. So it's quite important that we actually format the SD card first, because we don't want anything to be on that card, and that includes some of the software which sometimes comes with these cards. So format the format the card and take everything off there, so you're sure you've got a clean card. And the next thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be adding the Victron software, which is freely available. You go to this website address, again I'll put this in the notes, but if you look you can see what the address is here, and then you want to go to Raspberry Pi 2 software. So this is the next page. So on that page you can see that we have Venus Image Raspberry Pi 2.wic.gz, and you want to download this file directly to your downloads folder. Do not open it. Repeat, do not open it. It has to be flashed across, and to do that you need the file in its format that it comes in. So this is also available as a zip file if you're running Windows. Now, in order to get this file to flash onto your SD drive, you'll need this little app called Balena Etcher. It's free and it works on both Mac and Windows. So I'll leave a link to that as well in the description. That's done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that application that we talked about earlier, Balena Etcher, open that up. We're going to flash from file. Balena Etcher gets opened, flash from file, Raspberry Pi 2, select the target, which is that little USB drive, 7 gigs I believe is on there, is that right? Yeah. Select that, flash it over, it will want the password, don't look. It's flashing the drive. Da-de-da-de-da-de-da. Now what should happen is I put that card if you can see that. It is very tight in there. Into the card reader on the Raspberry Pi. That's in. And then we plug the power supply in. See what happens. There we go. So there it is, it's booting up. It's actually upside down. Okay, so once you've got that Victron software flashed across and onto your machine, what you need to do is to find out what the IP address of your Raspberry Pi is. Now, you can do that either through the Bluetooth software or just go to your router, and you can see our Raspberry Pi there, 192.168.36.240. Now the reason we're able to do that is because we've used a Cat5 cable to connect our Raspberry Pi directly to our LAN, local area network, or router. If you can't do that, then simply open up the Bluetooth software on your phone and use the following method of finding your IP address. Open up the Raspberry Pi and then open up the settings in the top right hand corner. This will open up a second window which says network settings, and then you click on Ethernet settings. The next window that will open up will give you the IP address, and you can see it here at 192.168.36.240. Now, just a word of warning, your IP address may not be the same. It will differ from machine to machine, so you need to go through this process to find out what your actual IP address is for your Raspberry Pi. So at this point, you simply type that IP address or numbers, including the dots, into your web browser, and this is what will come up. So you'll see it will come up like that as a series of hotkeys. So this is now logged on to the software which is running on the Raspberry Pi. The next thing you need to do is add the setup helper from GUI Mods. Now you simply put this to a formatted USB drive. Yes, USB this time. Here's the link to the page that you need to go to. Again, I'll put this in the description. Scroll down and find the latest version of the helper, and as you scroll down you'll see there's some interesting help text. The file you're looking for is this one, setup helper. Now again, you simply transfer this over to the USB stick. Do not unpack it or unzip it. And what we're going to do is click on here, go to menu, go to settings, and go to general. I'm going to put on remote support. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reboot the software, and I'm going to have to put the camera down a minute to do this because, oh no, it's there. Right, so I think it's in general, reboot, and you hit the reboot twice. So reboot once. Now once you have rebooted this twice, you then take out the USB stick, and what should happen is that you will then have an extra page of settings which you can adjust, which have been put onto the software by the GUI Mods helper. Let's show you that. And once you get to onto your remote settings from the IP address in the browser, if you go all the way down to right at the bottom, is it settings? I think it's settings, the very last one. You will find this one here, package manager. You open up package manager and you will see that it says GitHub downloads, etc, etc, etc. So the first one is this one, which is for downloading, and I had it on fast and then normal, and now it's on normal. It will automatically do the GitHub downloads. So using this extra menu and package, you can automatically update all of these GUI mods, and that includes the drivers for the 7-inch touchscreen, which is just fantastic. And you can set it to auto update for all the other bits and pieces that are in there. Now I could go into all the details, but I think you should discover it for yourself. This is a really cheap mod that works extremely well. So another source of information is this YouTube channel called Himmelberger Bus. Now Sean, who runs the channel, has done a whole video on this Victron upgrade. It's really worth going and watching, and he goes into a lot more detail than I have here. Now I've contacted Sean, and actually we're hoping to do a collaboration video later on for both boat users and RV users. Watch this space. Connecting all of your various pieces of Victron kit to the Raspberry Pi is really quite straightforward. We've got two PV charge regulators, our BM712 battery monitor, and of course our multi-plus, and they're all connected through these USB ports. Now on the bottom of your Victron equipment you'll see there's a little 4-pin connection bar. So this little connector port on the bottom left hand side uses a JST type connector, and it's this that you have to solder onto the USB cable in order to get the communications correct. Now you can make these leads quite long, as are about 3 meters where they go back to our charge regulators, but some of them are 2 meters. You need to get the connections the right way round, otherwise you can do some damage. There's only 3 cables that actually connect, and therefore we thought we'd show you the right way to do it. With the JST cable this way up, that's the 2 indents facing down and the 4 tabs facing up, you simply change the red cable to a green one, and then all the other cables line up. Black on the bottom, green in the center, and then white on the 3rd pin. The 4th pin does nothing. You can remove this. You should also remove the red cable from the USB end. That way you won't get confused. Remember, it's the black, the green and the white that need to align, no other cables. As long as you follow this coding, you can make these quite long. We didn't actually change the red cable, we just marked it with some green heat shrink, as you can see here. Now you can actually buy these connection USB cables direct from Victron, but they're very expensive. They're around $27 I believe each. Making them this way makes them around $3 each. We'll put an Amazon link or something where you can get them in the description. The new panels are now in then. I've made a new plastic backing. This is a piece of leather patented plastic. Victron battery monitors there. This is our diesel heater. This is the panel. We hold our finger on something like that, and there we are. It tells you details on the batteries. Do that on the inverter. We can turn the inverter on, off, charger only, yada yada yada. Tells us all the information. The same with it, it tells us what our AC loads are, what our photovoltaics, our solar cells are providing, and how much our DC we're using, 12 volts around the boat. We've got some lights on and other bits and pieces at the moment. Customising the system once you've got it set up. So the LAN connection is really handy. It allows you to work from a computer, setting up and customising all the screens that you want to see. We've got ours now set up as the mains grid coming in red, and of course on float is our inverter charger. We've got our AC load showing, and then our PV chargers, charge regulators, both of them showing. Our DC system, which is currently using 104 watts, 7 amps. That's because we've got our diesel heater going, it's quite cold. The other thing that you can do is that you can use this setup while it's connected to your local area network to monitor what's going on remotely. I'll perhaps do more about that at a later date, but yes, you can keep records and you can remotely monitor what's going on, providing your boat is connected to some form of Wi-Fi connection. Particularly useful if you're away from the boat. Well, as you can see from my natty mood lighting and shadow effects, it's now Sunday evening and I still haven't finished editing the video. There's lots of information in there and it's quite a lot to take in, so really we should have done this in 2 videos, but I wanted to kind of show you the gist and perhaps show you some more details a bit later on when we've put the system through its paces. But hopefully you've got the idea of what we're trying to do. Don't forget to watch the other people's videos that we've recommended. There's some really great information in there that will be a lot of use and help to you, especially if you're thinking of using a Raspberry Pi. It's a great little piece of kit. You know, you can do all sorts of things with it. It will run OpenCPN. It will run its own Raspberry Pi software, which is a bit like Windows, but a lot simpler. It will take mail. They're a fantastic little computer. I didn't know much about them before, and I'm learning an awful lot very quickly. Don't forget, guys, like, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up. There's lots of other things to look at on our website and, of course, on our Patreon site. Go and give them a visit. The links are in the description along with all the other information. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Sail safe. Bye.